We all have a pretty clear mental image of what a demolition or construction worker looks like. Calloused hands, weather-beaten face, dirt under their fingernails, and forearms that make Popeye look anorexic by comparison. They're so filled with testosterone that they will work through pain, injury, and illness without hesitation. So macho that they're utterly incapable of discussing their feelings or anyone else's for that matter. They're rough, tough, hard-nosed, and hairy-arsed. And the women of the industry are pretty damn tough too. They need to be in order to withstand the misogyny that still perpetuates in some corners of the sector. If you were going into a scrap, you'd feel a lot more confident if you had a few demolition and construction men and women at your side. Which makes what I'm about to say seem strange and out of place. Because beneath all that high-vis bravado runs a thick yellow stream, stretching from the highest corporate boardrooms right down to the site gates and beyond. This is an industry capable of getting awfully vocal and animated about a pride flag, but it remains more than happy to fly a white one the moment the real conflict arrives. When COVID-19 hit the UK, the nation was instructed to stay home. But when the government broke away briefly from their Downing Street parties to tell the construction industry that it alone was expected to keep the wheels of the economy turning, what happened? Did industry leadership demand safety guarantees or clear terms for site workers? No. The Construction Leadership Council rolled over like a well-trained golden retriever, belly up, begging for a pat on the head, while site workers were left to fend for themselves in this strange new world. And that spinelessness set the benchmark. Look at the Competition and Markets Authority probe into bid rigging and collusion. 10 major firms were named and shamed for carving up contracts behind closed doors, stealing money from public and private sector clients alike. Yet, even though all 10 guilty parties were members, the National Federation of Demolition Contractors chose to sit on its hands. They did nothing for fear of upsetting the apple cart, despite knowing full well that some of those apples were demonstrably rotten to the core. A trade federation meant to uphold integrity decided that protecting the status quo mattered more than standing up for honest competition. Then came the red diesel fiasco, when the Treasury announced it was stripping the industry of its entitlement to a red diesel subsidy, wiping millions off contractor margins overnight. Most of the sector took a vow of silence. Instead of mounting a fierce, unified campaign to explain that heavy machinery can't simply switch to mains electricity overnight, people just stared at the floor. Nobody wanted to rock the boat, even though it was a boat in desperate need of a good rocking. When scientists and green activists told us to stop using dirty old diesel machines, we complied without a peep. Never mind the minor detail that viable alternatives don't yet exist. With battery electric plants strictly limited to light compact applications and hydrogen steel a distant pipe dream, contractors were forced into buying expensive Stage 5 diesel kit just to keep working in low emission zones. We paid through the nose for the privilege of continuing to do our jobs. And how did those same environmentalists reward that compliance? By declaring that demolition was the work of the devil and pushing a dogma that assumes retrofitting a dilapidated, unsafe building is always superior to knocking it down and starting afresh. The industry swallowed that insult whole, even though the claim had zero basis in reality. And this cowardice is not just confined to dealing with government ministers or eco-protesters. It poisons our commercial relationships every single day. When a major contractor arbitrarily shifts the goalposts, extends its payment terms to 90 days, or demands a retrospective discount halfway through a job, the supply chain stays quiet. Subcontractors don't fight back. They doff their caps, lube up, and wait to be shafted. The sheer terror of being left off the next tender list keeps everyone obedient. The same submissive silence greeted the removal of grandfather rights for plant operators. Decades of site experience were wiped out at the stroke of a bureaucrat's pen by a single training organisation. Battle-tested operators were forced to prove skills they had mastered 30 years ago. The industry stared at its boots, kept its head down. When workers were pushed into precarious self-employment, there was no collective outrage. There was no pushback from the firms relying on the labour, just total capitulation. And at site level, when individual workers face unbearable conditions, poor facilities, or financial ruin, They take it on the chin and they soldier on as best they can. No apple carts upturned, no boats rocked, just a quiet, stoic acceptance of whatever hardship comes down the pipe. And sadly, this industry-wide cowardice is contagious and it's capable of spreading beyond the site boundaries, and it's even infected my corner of the business too. Reasonable questioning from legitimate journalists has given way to reporting only of the positive. Fear of jeopardising their advertising income has turned most publications into obedient drones. How can an industry comprising almost 3 million rough, tough, battle-hardened individuals be so easily manipulated? Because we have confused physical endurance with institutional strength. Taking a beating without complaining is not the same as bravery. It's just submission. At site level, toughness is a survival mechanism. But in the boardroom, real toughness requires a backbone. And in many instances, that backbone is sadly lacking. We've built a commercial ecosystem fueled by fear. Subcontractors fear main contractors fear developers, trade associations fear losing membership dues from the industry heavyweights, magazines fear losing their advertisers. Everyone is terrified that if they speak out, blow the whistle, or demand fair treatment, a competitor will jump straight into their grave before their body is even cold. Until this industry learns to match its collective corporate spine with the individual grit of the men and the women on the tools, it will remain exactly what it is today, a giant with the body of a lion, but the heart of a mouse.